Brian asked us, how ready are today's corporations to actually deal with the continuous change that comes with the digital world? Thanks, Brian, for your question. You see, the big corporations today have perfectly evolved to live at the top of the S-curve in their industry. When a disruption comes along, of course, that's at the bottom of the S-curve, and we've got two very different worlds colliding. One world that prizes certainty, one world that's used to continuous improvement, the other world prizes agility, change, and learning. And it's really tough to compete with those two worlds, and most companies struggle. One of the big issues, though, is at the bottom of this new S-curve is change is actually much slower than people think it will be. You see, at first, the digital disruption doesn't do anything to my business. I can't see it in my results. I don't have to act. So the bigger concern is not necessarily that the corporation doesn't know what's going on in their environment, it's they building the willingness to act before they absolutely have to. Because the problem, of course, is by the time you have to act, or by the time you're forced to act, it's often too late. So companies have lots of different ways of dealing with competing from the top of an S-curve with the bottom of another one. For example, you might want to create different kind of operating units or different experiments within your company. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. It's dealing with that really tough fact that even though a disruptive threat starts small, it's going to get big, and you need to start preparing for it now. So companies I think of that have done this really well is like Schibsted, the Scandinavian newspaper company. They saw very, very early that the internet was going to fundamentally disrupt classified advertising, which was the engine room of profits for most newspapers. And they moved early, they didn't worry about self-cannibalization, and they moved hard. And now they're a very powerful player across Europe in classified advertising. But think of so many of the US newspapers or even Australian newspapers and see that they didn't see these moves in advance, and they tried to stick it out in the publishing world until it was too late.